I am Takilam Ibol Singh, lecturer in geography. I am teaching geography in class 11 and 12 standard. As you know that we have discussed in previous class about the types of subsistence farming. As I told you yesterday, there are two types of subsistence farming. They are primitive subsistence farming. The second is intensive subsistence farming. For today, let me explain these two types of subsistence farming I've just mentioned here. Let me take the first, primitive subsistence farming. Actually, it is a type of farming which is mainly confined or which is mainly practiced in the areas of tropical rainforests. This types of farming is also known as shifting cultivation because the farmer who practice these types of agriculture frequently changed or shifted the cultivated fields after 2 to 3 years of continuous cropping when the soil fertility of that cultivated field have lost through leaching. In this type of farming, the farmers, after selecting the land for cultivation, especially on the hillsides, they clear the land by felling trees and whatever grows and drive up it. Let me explain here in Manipur also. Hairiba primitive subsistence farming hairiba lau makal sida laumi singsna ihan hana makoina lau ugadaba mafam singse chingi chingmaida maroina umang wamang si laiba jagada hana khangani khallaba matung sida makoina lau ugadriba lokpham aduda haurumiba uwa sing napi singbi sing atai atopa mayam sing ado makoina clear yan thatgani aduga kanghangani. Then the dry materials are set on fire and turn them into ash so as to increase the soil fertility. Kanglaba uwa sing ado napi singbi sing ado laumi sing ado na mai thado oba matung sa ut oina olalle duga ut sing ado na lau gudrobo lophum adugi laipak laihau kahalle. The method of farming is quite primitive in the sense that the farmer, while conducting these types of agriculture, especially in the hillside, use primitive tools or inputs. They do not use modern agricultural infrastructure or factors, say for example, biochemical fertilizer, machines and other plant protection measures. Hairiba primitive subsistence farming haiba lau makals de wahai primitive haiba wahai snaso adumak taksare mamangai gi oiba adugumba lau pathap ni. Hairiba lau pathap sta laumi singsna hauski matam ga chunaba lau siubagi maroiba factors sing haiba de biochemical fertilizer dagi machine sing ithei lokhongi kudong chaba makoida phangde avdas natana thariba mahai marong sing aduna karigumada laina tina tarpa matamda makhoi dubu ngakthok na bagin mata laumisna snariba pesticide, insecticide, weedicide hariba laumi singsta sinaba ngamde. The cropping pattern is also dominated by food crops only. Here I mean cropping pattern. Actually, the term cropping pattern refers to the type of crops grown by the farmers on their cultivated fields. Matang asta ay na cropping pattern haiba tama makaksinari masna takpade laumi singsna maki lopham duda thariba low kari crop mahi morong makhal dubu ay koina geographically cropping pattern haidana mentawe. Hariba shifting cultivation se prithvi ki tongan tongan mafam singsta olaibak singsta makhoi ki jaga duga chanaba maming thole. Shifting cultivation has given different names in different countries of the world. Say for example in northeastern India awang nongpok barki state sings Manipur yauna hariba jaga study hariba primitive subsistence farming se jumming haiduna kawe maming thole. Malaysia da masi bokuna ladang, Vietnam da it is called Ray, Brazil dana madokena roca, Congo dana that is masoli. This primitive subsistence farming has certain disadvantages because deforestation or cutting down the forests grown in the hilly area is the prime step for practicing these types of agriculture. However, this shifting cultivation atopa maming amada haraga primitive subsistence farming haiba sigi khudong sadaba kharalei kari karino haiba taraga di ahan bada lawphap law haiba law pathap sibu hets paikhat pa matamda umang kok thokpa haibadi horiba using chingmaroi na chingmaida horiba using se yantatpagi thabak se si ahan yantatpagi thabak sina hariba law siki ahan ba khongthang ni. Therefore, it brings or it leads environmental degradation such as global warming and air pollution. Further, these types of farming has its environmental or ecological impact. It brings soil erosion and soil loss. Given 2 points that represent or that show the disadvantages or environmental impact of this primitive subsistence farming or sitting cultivation, different countries all over the world have strongly criticized or widely criticized the primitive subsistence farming, and efforts are being made to replace it by settled farming in different parts of the world. See, the future of sitting cultivation is bleak because it brings adverse environmental consequences. Next, let us discuss about the intensive subsistence farming. Actually, intensive subsistence farming is a special type of farming which is mainly practiced in those countries or in those parts of the world where the size of population is very large. On one side, the area of land for cultivation is very small or very limited on other side. In these types of farming, the farmers try to get whatever they need from their small plot of cultivated lands. It is mainly carried on in the monsoon land of Asia, where the size of population is very large and the supply of land for cultivation is very, very small. In the, suppose let me explain, the main characteristics, features of the intensive subsistence farming. Yes, the size of land holding in intensive subsistence farming is very small because of the high density of population. Yes, I have just mentioned here is this type of farming is mainly practiced in monsoon land of Asia, where the size of population is very large. The second important characteristic features of this intensive subsistence farming, the farmer used their cultivated land more intensively through the practice of double cropping, triple cropping, even multiple cropping, so that they can make large size of agricultural products in order to meet increasing demand for agricultural crops, especially food. All the agricultural activities starting from the plowing of the fields up to the harvesting of crops are done mainly by the farmer themselves along with their family members. There is a limited use of machineries. In other words, the mechanization of farm is quite limited. The other characteristics, the fragmentation of land is quite common because of inheritance law. The soil fertility is also maintained by using farm yard or manures. Therefore, the productivity of land is very high on one side, but the productivity or yield per unit labor is very, very low because larger number of the manual laborers are being employed. The cropping pattern also dominated by food crop. Next, let us come to the commercial types of farming. At the very outset of this unit, I told you that agriculture as a primary human activities can classify broadly into two. The first one is subsistence, another is commercial. Yes, the second type of farming, that is commercial farming. Let me explain, or let me say something about the commercial farming. Actually, it is a type of farming in which the farmer grows crops to get profit, or it is market-oriented farming. It means that the crops grown in commercial farming are sold to the market so that the farmer can get profit. It is also known as the extensive farming because the farm size is very, very large. An individual farmer sometimes run alone over 100 and 1,000 hectares of land. Farm mechanization is also very high, meaning that most of the agricultural activities in commercial farming, starting from the plowing of the fields up to the harvesting of crops, are done by machines. However, commercial farming is sendong gidamakta mahi marong thaba makalgi lau pathamne. Hariba lau pathapsta laumi singsna matam gachunaba habadi anauba lau siubagi technology sing input factor mayam sing makoi loina sizinagani. Farm size habadi laumi singsna lau uriba lopam adugi size isu adugi matik chawgani. Individual laumi amakatana matantana lam hectare cham amasung lising gi mathakta lau ugani. Sau khraba lopam dudi koi laumi aikhoina human labor, manual labor sinmina thabak suba ngamdabanina machine na ayama thabak tawe. Maramaduna masibo aikhoina extensive farming haidana min tawe. Haiba commercial farming study, the farmers are used modern agricultural inputs such as SYB seed, high yielding variety of seed, early maturity crops, that is biochemical fertilizer, plant protection measures such as pesticide, weedicide, herbicide, and machines of different types, as well as provision of irrigation. The cropping pattern in the commercial types of farming is dominated by cash crop. It means that laumi singsna commercial farming paikaliba laumi singsna thariba mahi marong singsti sendong gidamakta thabanina market ta khwaidagi demand tawba aduba makalgi mahi marong sing thagani. Haiba mahi marong sing karamba market ta yolaga sendong phangna bagidamakta thariba aduba mahi marong sing doi koina cash crop haidana mintawe. The crops grown by the farmers in commercial farming are exported at national and international market for profit. The yield per unit area is very low, but the per unit labor is very, very high because there is a limited number of manual labor. Haibadi seasonariba laumi amamangi oina yenguragadi putoiba natra laumi singsna putoiba mahi morongi changse aduga matik wangi aduga lau uriba lopom adugi apunba area digi oina yenguragadi modoi khona potoki changse ka henda neme. Commercial farming je maruoina kraida paikatke haba targadi economically developed toroba adugumba Western European countries and United States, in some part of this Oceania, means particularly Australia gumba, America gumba, Europe awang nongpok nongchup thangba Europe laibak singsta haiba commercial farming se maruena pahakani. Next come to the plantation farming. This is very interesting to know or to study the term plantation farming. Like actually it is plantation farming, actually it is a special type of farming which is mainly carried on in tropical world or tropical countries. Plantation farming haiba lo makal side tropical laibak lamdamsta tropical world habati tropical manung san laibak sing natana prithvi ki atopa tropical wang mada laiba laibak sta paikat pa yaba adugumba lo pathap nate tropical manung chamba laibak khatada paikadam ne maram karigino habta tropical environment is the best suited for conducting, for practicing the plantation crops or plantation farming. Actually, plantation farming was introduced by European nations in tropical world during their colonial rules or periods. Tropical country gi manung sanba or tropical world gi manung sanba laibak singsta plantation paikaliba plantation farming singse masi kana na purakibna hodom bano habatadi Euroki sakti leraba inakulaba adugumba paisa pairaba kangbu sing aduna makoina loilam sanduenge matamda haudom badu makange low patamni hairiba plantation farming haiba low patapse commercial farming ni adubo atai commercial farming ga hairiba plantation farming siga manadaba maki saktam khara lei hairiba saktam singdo let me explain one by one. The first characteristic is that in plantation farming, only a single cash crop is grown on large extent of plantation. Plantation farming dadi lomi singsna sendong phangna bagina mahi morong amakak maki chawgraba lopam du thagane. Lomi sna low uriba lopam sing aduki size du yam chawbana marong orega plantation farming su commercial farming ni karma commercial farming extensive farming haidana maming kaubiyai. Crop capital intensive, actually plantation farming is highly capital intensive farming. It means that heavy capital investment is required. However, the plantation farming haiba low makal se commercial farming ni atai commercial farming ga mak manadaba saktam haiba bo paisa ka hena thadaba mathau tai. Adugi sumatakta modern technology, capital and managerial skills are also highly demanded in plantation types of farming. But all these modern agricultural inputs needs to use in plantation farming are brought from abroad, especially from European countries. Plantation farming haiba low makals da darkar oiriba matam gutunaba low subi machak mayam singse paisa yauna management gi skill yauna technology yauna karai dege mapalam gi laibak sing maruina Europe ki laibak sing sti pusalakek ma matane. Cheap supply of skilled labor are made available locally. Zagadu da sathariba plant farming asibu sathariba zagadu da lairiba hai singraba simi khaknatana ataidi prithviga topa laibak sing se pusalakek ngatane. High quality products are to be met in plantation farming so that the demand for this crop at international level or international market can be met. Since the plantation farming is the export oriented farming, most of the plantation farms are located along the coastal area. Plantation farming haiba lau makal sidi malomi singsna puthok liba lau siubi potok singse mapalam da prithviga topa kaithel da yona bagi damakta oibanina hairiba plantation farm mayam singse karai da leigi haiba taradi samudragi torban da leigane maram di samudragi ising lambi gi khudong saba leigan leiba irai laina phangba mapham singsta. Ship transport is required to link the street with the market. Lambi thong phaba mathau tai. Plantation farm singse export oriented farm oibanina mana puthok leba lomi singsna puthok leba mahi marong singse market yo laga puraga consumer singski makut yahon ma mathau tabanina aphaba makalgi lambi thong mathau tai. Hairiba plantation farming sta lomi singsna sendong khwaidigi leina thariba dugumba mahi marong sing hairagadi cha, coffee, rubber, chu, lasing hairiba singse plantation crop ni. Fagenda sabse actually it is the largest coffee plantation which is developed in Brazil. Aina mamang su matak su high gre plantation farming haiba low makal se temperate zone da haiba de tropic wang madal laiba laibak sing maruaina Europe ki amasung America gi sakti leraba praja sing aduna tropic ki manung san balaibak singsta makogi loilam sandokpa lakpa matam duda makoina sendong phangna bagi namakta tropical countries na lairiba sinmi mayam sing laumi mayam sing ase ahongba mamalda khuchuman nemna piraga paikhat halamba adugumba makhalgi lau pathamni hairiba lau pathap se foreigners sing maruina European nations sing na hawdoklami hairam haibasigi example ahum khak ai matang sta palamge British na khudamena Assam gi badi Bharat Sri Lanka Bharat amasung Sri Lanka da paikhaliba sa plantation o sa bagan that is tea plantation in Assam kanana hawdomi British na hawdomi Malaysia da paikhaliba rubber plantation British na hawdomane adagi amuk anisubada West Africa da paikhaliba cocoa plantation kanana hawdomi France na hawdomane Indonesia paikaliba sugarcane plantation Dutch na hawdombani. These are the important points that you need to understand about the commercial farming, including plantation farming. Next, we have to study the very interesting type of commercial farming that is called mixed farming. Actually, mixed farming refers to the type of farming in which the farmer raise crops or means agriculture crops and rearing of animals at the same time. Mix, the word mix also shows that it is a type of farming where the farmer raise crop on one side and they also rear animal on other side at the same time. The important crops of the farmer in mixed farming are wheat, barley, oat, maize and other fodder crops. The important animals they rear in mixed farming are cattle, sheep, pigs and poultry. Mixed farming is also highly capital intensive farming in the sense that heavy capital investment or expenditure is required on farm machineries and building. In the mixed farming, the farmers use green manure and chemicals. Soil fertility is maintained by adopting two important practices. One is crop rotation, another is intercropping. Mixed farming is the common culture of the Western European countries. These types of farming can earn the farmers to get more profit. There are actually three important areas where mixed farming is mainly carried on. The first one is Western European countries, Northeastern United States, and part of Australia along its eastern coastal area. Next come to the dairy farming. Dairy farming is a special type of farming. It is also a commercial farming in which the farmer raise or rear milk cattle for making milk and other milk products. Animals are reared scientifically and greater emphasis is laid on cattle breeding, healthcare services for the animals. Heavy capital investment is made for making animal sheds, storage facilities for fodder, feeding and milking of the animals. It is also highly labor intensive farming as it involves rigorous care in feeding and milking. There is no off-season amongst the farmer who practice these types of farming because animals require proper care throughout the year. It is mainly practiced in urban and industrial center where the demand for dairy farming is very, very high. With the development of that is refrigeration, that's pasteurization and other preservative processes, dairy farming has its scope has been increasing day by day since the product of dairy farming are perishable in nature. For today, let us stop here. In the next class, let me explain the remaining part of this unit number 3. Thank you.